Okay, welcome all to our next class. In the last class, we saw main three types of hacking methods. First one, brute force attack. Second one, denial of service attack. And third one, a variant of DOS attack, that is distributed denial of service. Now we move on to next type of attack, namely session hijacking. You might have heard this term session before in web programming subject. As you know, session is a duration on which a user is logged into his or her account. So this type of attack is mainly targeting the user's login session on a particular website or in a particular web server. Usually for every purpose we need to log in into a web server, in the case of email access, or in the case of internet banking, etc. Almost everywhere we have certain credentials, username and password that we have to enter in to get services from the web server. Thus this session that is considered as a secured session itself, usually. Now what happens during this session is that there will be a session ID kept for this session duration, and it is used by the client to transfer files to or information to the web server and back from web server to the client. So if someone has some third party has this access to this session ID, then he or she can easily access your information passed from the client to the web server. That is a big threat of this session hijacking. Why? Because all the vital information sent by the client to server and back from server to client will be seen by the attacker in the middle, and he can exploit it in any way he or she want. So that's the main problem with the session hijacking. You may be knowing that usually our session is done under the guidance of TCP protocol. As you know, TCP is a connection oriented protocol. So before establishing connection, a three-way handshaking or all those things needed to be implemented. By doing all these things, we may think that it is safe, our session is safe, but really, but in the real, it is not the case. Why? Because any person can enter into this session between this client and server by getting access to this session ID. The big threat of this the big threat of this session hijacking is that this session ID is very easily available in our cookies. You might have heard about cookies too. That is a temporary storage usually in our browser by the web servers for with this cookies is made with a good intention that web server will get a track of all the client's activities in order to give him a better service. Okay, actually this cookies purpose is for good, but these cookies may be exploited by these hackers to get some vital information regarding users activities like the session ID, so that he can unleash this session hijacking attack easily. uh, we will see a diagram of session hijacking here. A victim, that means a client is accessing, he is getting service from the web server, and he has established a TCP uh, connection with the web server. As his TCP make use of a session ID for the duration of that session. That session ID is unique and it is used by the victim to get services from the web server. but an attacker somehow gets this session ID, usually from the client's web browser's cookie, and this attacker gets all the information passed through the throughout that session. Okay, what are the information exchanged between the victim and the web server will reach this attacker too. Okay, that's a problem with um, so this session hijacking. So this session hijacking, it's also known as TCP session hijacking, is a method of taking over a web user session by surreptitiously obtaining the session ID and masquerading as the authorized user. Once a user session ID has been accessed, the attacker can masquerade as that user and do anything the user is authorized to do on the network. The session ID is normally stored within a cookie or URL. For most communications, authentication procedures are carried out at a setup. Session hijacking takes advantage of that practice by intruding in real time during a session. The intrusion may or may not be detectable depending on users' level of technical knowledge and the nature of the attack. Uh, Whenever we access internet on typing a URL, you may get a page in which a message is shown that this web server is not secure, your connection is not secure. You may go back, otherwise uh, your communication will be under threat. Such a message you may encounter when accessing some website. That is that is that it happens why because there are two types of HTTP. One is HTTP and another one is HTTPS. You may be knowing that HTTPS stands for secure HTTP. If a particular website that we are searching for is not using HTTPS, then such a error message will be shown. Warning message will be shown automatically by the web browser. Why? Because it is not secure to going into such a website which does not support HTTPS. You might have heard about SSH, secure socket layer. Similarly, transport secure layer protocols that are part of this HTTPS. They gives maximum protection by giving the encryption technique and all. So once you find that one particular website is supporting HTTPS, you can directly go into the website and give any information you want. To a certain extent, that website is safe. Whenever you give your credential, your username and password in a website, you must make sure that that website support the HTTPS. uh, if one particular website does not support HTTPS, then you must not give your credentials there. There is a chance for getting all your credentials stolen by the hackers. So this is the thing you have to keep in your mind always. Now that's all about session hijacking. Now we move on to our next kind of attack, buffer overflow attack. Okay. This buffer overflow error or warning might have been encountered by you many times while doing your C or C++ program. Whenever we access array, as we know, array is of fixed size. Let it be suppose that we have a array integer array of size 10, and we are trying to insert 11 elements into it. Then we may get a warning saying that your array is already overflow. That means you can understand that only 10 locations are reserved for your array, but you are trying to insert an element into 11th location. In C and CPP, usually encounter a warning only. Why? Because C and CPP are not trying to block such kind of errors. Why? Because they are not so secure. There is one main threat regarding C and C++ programming languages. Mm, Whenever we tell about pointers, pointers can be considered both as strength and weakness of C programming language, and in C++ also we make use of pointers to a certain extent. But in pure object-oriented language like Java or Python, they do not entertain the use of these pointers. Why? Because pointers open up a direct entry into the memory, where by getting direct access into memory, and a hacker can do anything. C and CPP, they are less secure. Why? Because they allow users to enter into the memory directly, either through buffer overflow or through these pointers. So whenever a particular web server allows this kind of buffer overflow, then the hacker can easily unleash buffer overflow attack by getting direct access into the memory of the web server. So buffer overflow condition exists when a program attempts to put more data in a buffer than it can hold. Okay. Since buffers are created to contain a defined amount of data, the extra data can override data values in memory addresses adjacent to the destination buffers unless the program includes sufficient bounds checking to flag or discard data when too much is sent to a memory buffer. Okay, so this is a problem with the C and C++. They do not provide any mechanism to block this buffer or overflow conditions. Okay. Now, as countermeasures of this buffer overflow attack, we have four different things. First one is secure coding practices. Second one, test and audit each programs. Third one, disable unused or dangerous services. Similarly, stack execution protection. So using these four methods, these countermeasures, we can safeguard our systems from buffer overflow attack. So you must keep one thing in your mind when designing a web server, that your web server never allows a user to go into the memory directly. As an example, they have shown that here we have a character array, namely source, with the content username 1 2. That means total 12 characters are there. There are total 10 characters in username 12, but you have created another array named destination of size 7 only, so it can contain only 7 characters, and we are trying to copy the source to destination, so that only first 7 characters will be 7 characters only will be stored in the destination. Okay, they have by mistake they have shown that 8 characters can be saved in the destination, only 7 can be stored in the destination array 0 to 6. By mistake they have shown the size of the array from 0 to 7, that means 8. It is not the case as far as C++ and Java are concerned. Anyway, we will get only the first 7 characters. Remaining 3 characters will be stored in the adjacent places of destination of 6, where actually a user cannot store any information as part of this array destination. Destination can contain only 7 characters, but as part of this strcpy function, as a result of this, we have stored the remaining 3 characters also in the adjacent memory cells of destination, which should not be allowed by any web server. Why? Because it opens up the pathway for a hacker to unleash this buffer overflow attack. And we will see the remaining kinds of attacks in next class.